Welcome to our podcast, A Novel Talk, co-hosted by Carl Lee, and I'm Wendy Kendall. My mystery book, Cat Out of the Bag, that's cat with a K, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, and all over. Take advantage of the half-price summer sale on now. Catherine Watson, a purse designer and amateur sleuth, goes from designer bags to body bags when she's faced with a murder mystery. And also half price is the prequel, Pistachio Makes a Splash. Catherine and Mayor Brenda Durling investigate a chilling cold case. I'm busy working on the exciting sequel, and later this year, my new mystery romance set in Catherine's Bayside, Washington will be available. Thank you to all the readers who've let me know how much they enjoy my books. And here comes your co-host.
Thanks, Wendy. My name is Carl Lee, and I write paranormal fantasy. My first novel, Selfies, is currently under review for consideration by a publisher.
Our guest today loves cozy mysteries and enjoys writing them too. For the longest time, Ileana Munoz Renfroe wanted to be an author. Almost 20 years later, and after raising 2 children and owning numerous businesses, she decided to take the plunge. Thank goodness for readers. Since 2 of her passions are the paranormal and high-end fashion, she found a way to combine them and created Rosa, the Cuban Psychic Mysteries. This series brings together her Cuban and American cultures to make for a fun, cozy mystery story. The first book in the series is A Fashionable Fate. Welcome, author Ileana Munoz Renfroe, to A Novel Talk.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I want to thank you and Carl for this opportunity. I can't wait for the YouTube to come out. It should be lots of fun.
We're so excited for a fashionable episode. At least I am. I think Carl's excited that it's going to be paranormal.
You know that that's true. And Ileana, thank you for joining us this evening. I was wondering if you would tell us more about the mysticism and the Cuban culture.
Absolutely, Carl. Our culture is rather complex. It's a mix of different beliefs deriving from Europe and Africa. One of them is called Santeria, and it teaches you that each person has a destiny from God. In that particular religion, they unfortunately sacrifice animals to honor the 7 African powers, which are Elegua, Obatala, Ogun, Chango, Yemaya, Ochun, and Omiya. In Rosa the Cuban Psychic, I use the influence of the espiritista, which is basically a medium who can speak to the dead. They don't do any sacrifices. That's something very common that you'll see in the Cuban culture. Here, they communicate with the spirits in a gathering or through the readings of a tarot card. It's a little bit more common than the other belief, and that's where I base my story in the Espiritistas.
Excellent.
Ileana, your wonderful mystery takes place on Colton Island, a cozy place to live and to visit. Yet, there are areas where mysterious activities can go unnoticed for a while. Would you describe Colton Island to our listeners and why you decided this is a great place for a cozy mystery series?
Yes, of course. I created this location, Colton Island. It's a fictional island, as a combination of 2 real islands that exist here in Miami. I wanted a place where it was exclusive yet inviting, where everybody knows everybody, and the easiest way to travel around was in a golf cart.
I love that.
Yes,
I love that.
And down the road, one of the mysteries or one of the books in the series will obviously include drama surrounded around a golf cart. But the other reason I created Colton Island is because I wanted a place where the resident ghost, as we have in this story, had secrets and there's intrigue. And of course, one of the most important shops, I guess, if you want to call it, on the island is La Misteriosa Cafe. And this is co-owned by Rosa and her abuela Nana. This is where everybody comes together for the gossip, for the Cuban food, um, for the cafecito, for the pastelito, for the sandwiches. And the moment you walk in, if you can just close your eyes and imagine it, there's salsa music playing in the background. People will stand up and be, dancing and cheering and laughing, and it's a great place to hang out.
Well, I would like some coffee or cafecito. I'm a big coffee drinker. So you both keep talking about this, about cozy being a cozy mystery, but there are murders, there are suspicious characters, ghosts. Love the ghosts. Colton Island sounds great. But I want to hear more about one of the ghosts, specifically Raoul. Um, is he just he's just a great character? Can you tell us more about his life before becoming this great Raoul character?
Yes, actually, Raul lived in Miami during the 1980s when we had the drug lords and a lot of the people that had come on the boat in the Marielito. And what he did is he worked at a bar. He was a bouncer. So he was involved with very, how should I say, people that you don't want to really be friends with. And what ended up happening is he doesn't really know what happened to him. That's a mystery that'll be solved eventually in one of the later books. But all he knows is that he was at the bar having a drink. His shift was over, and the next thing he knew, he was dead. And it turned out that he ended up being assigned to Rosa as her spirit guide to help her along with any ghosts that appear to her or him needing help trying to solve what happened to them or their murder. So that's where they come in and they work together. He's very flamboyant, very funny. He's always making jokes, making Rosa laugh. He died wearing a 1980s outfit, the black shirt, black pants, and white shoes. It was very typical. You could see it in the Cuban community in Miami. So, again, his mannerisms are out there. He's gay, but he's like loves it, and of course he loves the fashion, and he's always looking at what she's wearing and what she's sketching, and he's a character all of his own. And if you can imagine the actual image of Raoul, I commissioned a book designer to create him from what I imagined in my mind he would look like.
Yeah, Rosa isn't the only person he makes laugh all the time. I love Raoul.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad.
He is fantastic as a character, and also the way that he and Rosa interact is it's fabulous reading. It's really great. But beyond sometimes being aided by psychic abilities, your amateur sleuth character Rosa is good also at identifying suspects, finding clues, and analyzing theories. Would you tell us a little bit more about Rosa?
Yes, absolutely. Rosa grew up in a house where they believed in, as I mentioned, Santeria and Espiritistas. So she was accustomed to seeing her grandmother do a tarot card reading all the time. And her mother has the ability to speak with ghosts, but she chooses not to. She doesn't like to really get involved in that. Rosa learned just from watching her grandmother and her ability to read minds and see the dead to read the mannerisms on people when they're behaving and speaking. She combines a lot of it. She tries not to use her mind reading capabilities when she's trying to analyze somebody. So she uses other skills, I guess, that'll come to light down the road. And that's what helps her with her sleuthing. And then of course Raoul is, since he's a gossip anyway, he'll pop up next to her and say, "Oh no, watch out, Rosa. Ahí viene, he's coming." So even if she doesn't really use any of her skills, he's always there to let her know what's going to happen next.
Kind of a follow-up, thank you, by the way, but kind of a follow-up to Wendy's question is, how do you balance Rosa's psychic abilities and the need to keep your readers spellbound? It would be a pretty short book if Rosa just whipped out the card, solved the mystery. I'm asking for a friend.
Well, I tried not to be overwhelming when I was describing her abilities. I have read recently, and I won't mention, but I have read some books that try to bring in a different culture. And to me, it appeared that it was just repetitive,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a little bit of annoying. So I try not to do that. And I try, in this book, I brought in several red herrings to also keep the story interesting. As you know, this is my first book, or at least my first published book. So I tried to follow in the footsteps of Agatha Christie, and tried to do a whodunit. And with that, hopefully, people are enjoying it, and it doesn't seem like it's an annoying ability that she has, or a fake ability, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. I'll let my friend know. Wink, wink.
Okay.
I would say it definitely kept me spellbound right to the very end. It's great suspense, great story, and yes, you had me all the way through to the very end. Excellent. And of course, I loved Rosa's fashion show. It was one of the highlights of the story for me because I think, like you, I love designer fashions. I have so much fun writing about my character, Catherine Watson's purse fashion business and interests in my own mystery series and the link between purses, purse design, and women's history. So I have to ask you, could you tell us about how you chose fashion as your amateur sleuth's interest? And could you give our listeners a little preview about her fashions and her Colton Island fashion show?
Absolutely. One of the things that I noticed in the Cozy Mysteries books that I've read is a lot of it is either culinary or craft. People are starting to come up with other ideas, which is great, but I wanted something that I felt comfortable writing about. And of course, I actually love fashion. And I've been lucky enough that pre-COVID, I was able to travel to Paris every year for extended time. And as you know, that is the epicenter of the haute couture. So
I am so jealous just hearing that. I'm so jealous.
I really miss Paris. I'm like itching to go back, but they're not letting Americans go back yet. So as soon as those borders open, I'm back. But anyway, back to this. So Rosa's creations are all exclusive, handmade, custom fitted outfits. And growing up, I've always enjoyed the lines of, for example, Chanel and Givenchy. Those are very classic, and I like to imagine that that's her basis for her creations. So she designs very luxurious, elegant, sophisticated outfits for her clientele, and she strives it in what she wears and in what she designs. And in book one, she's actually getting ready for an annual fashion show gala that she hosts every year on the island. In this particular one, she's presenting her new fashion line. And so that the couture lines, seamstresses work for long, long, long hours, usually over 1,000 hours of manual labor to just make one outfit. So I wanted it to be where it's, if you can imagine chiffon and silk and the flow and the elegance and something you would imagine wearing at a mansion or, that kind of outfit. But like you're always very well dressed. For example, like the French The French could be wearing something very simple, but they always look very elegant.
Mm.
And that's what I strived in Rosa, in the designs that she creates.
Beautiful.
So Paris has more than just food, then, is what I'm getting.
Yes.
So you mentioned Nana earlier, and I was wondering, paranormal interests and all. Does Nana have a favorite tarot card deck? What is special about those?
The one that she uses is the one that I grew up knowing or learning, which is the Rider-Waite tarot cards. It's very common in the Cuban culture to use.
It was my first deck too.
Was it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's the one that I imagine Rosa and Nana, but Nana using all the time when she does her readings. And she's very well known in the community as being extremely accurate. Nobody really knows that she could speak to the dead. They just think that she's really good at what she does. But yeah.
Keep your secrets.
Which, if I had a power, I think I would like to do that. So.
Well, Ileana, as I said, I enjoyed your plot in A Fashionable Fate very, very much. And there were some definite surprises along the way, all the way to the ending. And by the way, I love the characters' family recipes included at the very end of your book. Delicious. Do you plot your mysteries in detailed outlines in advance, or do you plot along the way as you create and write?
Well, this being my first book, when I started writing Rosa, the Cuban psychic mystery, I had an actual outline. However, as I started writing, I realized that the characters actually spoke to me, as they do now. I'm in the process of writing book 2 and another brand new series. And as much as I want to stick with the outline, it seems that I kind of go back and forth. So I'm not really a plotter and or a pantser. I think I'm a little bit of both. I'll start with an outline, or I've tried to start with an outline, but once I start writing, I just write. I write. That was the one advice that I received a long time ago, to not worry about what I was writing. Just write, because then you can always go back and fix it. For me, for the longest time, it's been that very first sentence. So even if I have an outline, starting that first chapter and that first sentence has been what keeps me from continuing to write more.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Ileana. I think pantsing and plotting are not two separate entities. They're two ends of a spectrum, and I don't think there's anybody who's 100% on either end of the spectrum. Personally, I consider myself about a 70% pantser.
Yeah, I understand completely. Yeah, I agree.
I like that. I know Wendy and I have a plotter friend, and she's about a 35 to 40% plotter. She pantses, but she won't admit it. Speaking of your book again, getting back to topic, I'm bad at that. We talked about Raoul the ghost, but there are more ghosts living on Colton Island. Could you tell us about the ghosts that live, air quotes, at the Abbey on Colton Island?
Yes, absolutely. They came with the Abbey. There was a family, Colton family, that purchased the island a long time ago, and they went ahead and they purchased the Abbey and had it transported to the island. Unbeknownst to them, there was actual ghosts attached to it. And the reason that I brought them in was because I made them a little bit ambiguous. I wanted to kind of set the tone that they're there, and then write more about them as the series continues. Right now, they hang around the Abbey. They don't really get involved with anybody. They're chatty, they're gossiping, they know everything that's going on. They sometimes choose to tell Raoul what's going on or not. When Rosa can't find Raoul, most of the time he's there. Excuse me. So hopefully you'll be able to see or read about them more in the near future.
Well, I'm hoping that I will be able to read more about them in the future.
Yeah.
In cozies, the amateur sleuth is often at odds with the local law. Can you tell our listeners a little about your character, Sheriff Storm?
Absolutely. Sheriff Storm came to Colton Island. He was a police officer that wanted to retire and live a more quiet life. Again, unbeknownst to him, there was a lot of drama, murder, secrets on the island, but he's a very smart man. And he had always been very fond of Rosa. He just always was very hesitant to reveal his feelings for her. And obviously, as you read the book, I won't give away what happened, but something happens to Rosa that makes him think that either he's going to do it now or never. And Rosa obviously is very thrilled when he declares his intent, and hopefully, moving forward, that'll be a very positive relationship. But he's very smart. His deputy is not as smart as him, but he's the one that solves the case. And moving forward, they'll be working together on any cases that occur in Colton, and who knows, maybe even Paris in book 2.
Ooh.
Ileana, you've talked to us about Nana, about Rosa, about the ghosts, about Sheriff Smart, Sheriff Storm, Smart Storm, Sheriff Storm.
He is smart.
Would you be willing to share some of your an excerpt from your book for our listeners?
Sure, of course. Let me know when you're ready.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Rosa stood poised at the edge of the pool when the vision hit her like lightning. A lifeless body, threatening words, uttered in anger. Her mother crumbled over on the floor, unconscious. Suddenly, the images were gone. Rosa was a confident swimmer, but those visions zapped her courage. The surface of the water glimmered. She shook her head. This wasn't her first vision, not by a long shot, and sadly, she knew it would come true. For now, she just had to focus on her swim. The laps had a way of calming her nerves and helping her put everything into perspective. She had a lot on her mind, without even including the startling images that had just flashed before her. An hour later, she felt invigorated. Smiling, she dried off, slipped on her dress, and started the walk back to her cottage on Colton Island. The pool was a pleasant stroll from where she lived. Colton Island was located north of Key West and accessible only by ferry. Today, there was a little over 200 people who lived there. Only homeowners, staff, and shop owners could come and go as they pleased. All others were allowed on the island by invitation only, making this exclusive location a reasonably safe place to live. They had a resident sheriff of sorts. He had been a police officer in one of the larger towns in northern Florida, who decided living a quiet life on Colton Island was preferable to moving anywhere else in the country. So, Sheriff Storm, tall and handsome, presided and watched over the island on a full-time basis. A wealthy American family with a passion for history purchased the island in the early 1900s. On one of their travels, they discovered an abandoned abbey and decided to acquire it and have it transported to the island and rebuilt. The Coltons restored it to the original glory, and for many years the abbey hosted the most elaborate parties of its time. Even then, there were rumors it was haunted, adding mystery to the island. It did not take long for the ghosts attached to the abbey to reveal themselves to Rosa and her spirit guide Raoul. Although they offered the ghosts the opportunity to move on, they chose to stay. They said that they had grown fond of the townspeople and enjoyed watching over them. On days that Rosa couldn't find Raoul, she knew he was hanging out with the abbey ghost. Although her cottage had a pool, Rosa often walked to the center of town and used the one at the hotel. Since the hotel was used only for guests of the owners that lived on the island year-round, it was one of the perks she was able to enjoy often. It also gave her a chance to stop by La Misteriosa Cafe for a cafecito after her swim. She co-owned it with her abuela Nana, although Rosa was more of a silent partner. Between her shop, Rosa's boutique, and sleuthing, she did not have time to manage another business. The cafe was there where everybody stopped by for all the local gossip. That was evident today, as almost every table was full of locals and visitors. They must be here for the event tonight, she thought to herself. Rosa inherited her gift of sight from her Nana, so it was no shock that as she entered the cafe, Nana had her Cuban coffee ready and waiting at the corner table. She was glad to sit and relax for a minute before she started the day. Nana came over, along with Moro, her familiar, smiled and sat down. Wearing her floral apron and standing at just 4 feet 10 inches, she looked like a typical, lovable, sweet Cuban abuela, always smiling and ready to give tight hugs and lots of kisses. Buenos dias, Rosa. Nana wiped her hands on her apron and cupped Rosa's face in her hands with a worried expression. What is wrong, my dear? I can feel something is off. Has something happened? Moto looked between Nana and Rosa in anticipation. He made noises sounding as if he was trying to speak with his tail curled up, as is the case for this type of breed. Nana and Rosa have wondered if he actually can speak, and that is his way of communicating. No, Nana, Rosa smiled and patted Moto on the head. I just had a vision, and it does not look good. I just hope whatever is going to happen will not interfere with the gala and fashion show tonight.
That was awesome. Thank you for the reading. I appreciate it. It's one of my favorite scenes. It really gets us right into the book right there.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I love that too. And already you start to get the sense of these characters, which is really, I mean, yes, so fun. Thank you so much, Ileana Munoz Renfroe, for joining us for a novel talk. Listeners, you will want to check out the website imrenfroe.com. There's so much fun information there about A Fashionable Fate's characters and setting and so on, plus lots of information about cozy mysteries. And Facebookers, be sure to check out the group Ileana started, Cozy Mystery Village. Look for it. It's a thriving group of cozy mystery readers and authors. You'll enjoy the company there. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. And remember, a novel read leads to a novel talk.